Starting lineup: Set, Viego, Akali, Draven, Morgana. Up against Teemo, Wukong, Silas, Smolder, Blitzcrank. Rating of the picks for a lower ranked game. Set as a top 8. Viego in the jungle. We're gonna bump Viego up from a 5 to a 6. So that's a 6 for Viego. Akali as a mid. 8. Draven as a shooter. 9. Morgana in support. 8. Teemo as a top. 5. Silas as a mid. 9. Smolder as a shooter. 8. Blitzcrank in support. 7. I've had a conversation about Viego recently, and I've come to understand that Viego is not a utility jungler and that Viego is not an in-and-out assassin. The essence of Viego is much like Jinx. The idea is that 1. Some of his spells synergize exceptionally well with DPS items, and that 2. He gets an on-kill ability that allows him to snowball dramatically. So in other words, the clumsiness that I've seen previously in Viego, where he's incapable of getting himself out of situations, or where he's incapable of offering support and utility, are actually intentional, and this is actually the way that he's supposed to be built. Now, if you've been playing yourself in lower tiers, or you've been watching anything on this channel, I would leave you yourself to judge whether it is a good idea to have another Jinx on your team now in the jungle. Although he may have tools to be built this way, and although there may be a serious plan behind it, I still have my doubts, to put it mildly, whether this is wise, because he effectively is a hyper carry, which would mean that already on Team Blue here, you would already in Viego and Draven have 2 hyper carries at the very least. I personally do not feel like this synergy with items dramatically changes whether it is a good idea or not, but passion can certainly remedy many things, and I had a very tough matchup here. Moving on. We opened the play with me coordinating with a very patient mid, and just suffering the hypermobility of Akali here in the beginning of the game. All these mobility tricks are far more harmful to the opposing team before a certain point in the game, because eventually people will get their hands on a bunch of mobility items, and it will be harder for Akali to play this mobility game, and I can count on a lot of help coming in from the support and from the mid. Silas is a good fit to take down Akali because of the fact that he has access to his passive AoE attacks to hit Akali even when she is in her shroud. The way this is played is Silas pokes with his first spell and baits out her cooldown. You get rid of the shuriken flip before you go all in. We have Akali relying on misdirection here, and Silas relying on a sustain advantage through Kingslayer. And Akali a very demanding champion. The question is, how many times can you misdirect people? And you get a good target for hijack here. The ultimate of Akali, perfect execution, a powerful tool in Silas's hand. You get that extra gap closer. There's a bunch of burst damage in there to finish her off, but you still have your sustain from Kingslayer. In this play, we see Akali primarily being confused by the mechanical greatness of her own character. Akali is not for everyone, and we have seen this Akali player before, and he was not very productive the last time that we've seen him either. You have Silas very effective with that abduct, which is why you would want to move sideways a couple of times if you're Akali and do a little wiggle. You're gonna be in trouble if he can land all of his abilities. And just not enough sustain to take this kind of punishment. You have to make your skill shots. That's Akali. You have no escape tools here. You have no utility here to make anything of on Viego. Viego relies as much on items as anyone, and if he doesn't have them, you just end up running away. You have nothing to threaten me with here. And the sad part is that this is about as impactful as Akali is going to get on me, because this is before I arm myself against magic, and this is before I am able to close that level gap. So you have 2 levels on me and I have no magic resistance whatsoever. This is very low damage output if damage is your entire point. Akali is a champ that forces you to think in every dimension. If you're not on top of your game, it will always show with Akali. And the way you know that this is wrong decision making on this Akali player is that even if Silas had not helped me out here, I would most likely have been able to take both of them, since Viego was only deadweight running away. So now you get 2 players on Team Red, and really 1 would have sufficed, and that's how you know you're getting outplayed. We have Blitzcrank helping the team coming over to the mid lane now. And Blitzcrank's rocket grab can single-handedly decide fights when used well. These same old demons here at play for this Akali. By now, you have been hit by 100% of the skill shots that we have so far shown. Which means that if you would have clicked on random buttons, you would have had a better chance to evade enemy attacks. And this is not Akali. Akali is not Tom, Akali is not Sion. You can't just tank through it. And a fun thing that people who never got into Wukong can't understand is that Cyclone has a special quality of getting stronger and stronger the more teammates you have around you. Because if you have 2 or 3 people shooting at the target that is knocked up, now you have truly devastating damage with that ultimate. And we are over 18 minutes into the fight. This Akali has bought practically only offensive items and still not capable of hunting anybody down. The person you try to isolate here in the corner of the bottom lane is still standing and you're forced to run away. And if you're Blitzcrank here, you have your ultimate up the entire time. Don't be afraid to let it fly a little bit more. Put your abilities on cooldown, have them in a kind of rotation. If you half miss your ultimate, but you use it twice as much, you're still gonna get way more out of it. This mythical moment of perfection to let go of your abilities does not exist. You have to try to put them on cooldown as fast as possible. You get way more out of it that way. And this team symbolically coming together over the Rift Herald. And the Rift Herald changes in role, going from a little funsy thing in casual games to something that people attach great value to in lower ranked games. And understandably so, because if everybody starts playing harder and you don't up your game, then the enemy team is going to get that same advantage time and time and time again. And over time, that small advantage of the Rift Herald adds up. And it's kind of funny, although you should definitely in a lower ranked game care about the Rift Herald. There is a ritualistic and religious value being attached to the Baron and the Rift Herald that have people confused and looking at these things in a cult-like manner. For this Viego player to jump in here when there's 3 or 4 guys of the enemy team at the Rift Herald here, that's suicide, and don't forget, dying costs money too. It's an irresponsible thing to do. It's going too hard. At some point you have to back out of it. And we've seen on the channel a ton of examples already of teams throwing away their victory because they absolutely want to get the Baron done. And so they prioritize the Baron over anything and everything, and it is in no way rational. Set, one of those champs that has my personal number, is going to go a little too far here. I've done it myself. It's very hard to resist. It feels like all your sacrifices are in vain as long as that tower doesn't come down. And there's absolutely no question with these team fights who stuck together more. You have great people here on the red side and quite terrible people on the blue side, constantly abandoning each other. We've had moments before in this game where Akali was asking for assistance. The assistance showed up, and then when it did, she went, well, WTF, get out of my lane. Set, one of those characters which you don't know why they work, but they somehow do. Seems like that ultimate utility of grabbing people wrestling style, throwing them around. Does more harm than good most of the time, but you somehow see Set coming out on top. And we see this frequently, this Draven going to come over apologetically after everybody's already dead. It does no good. Either make up your mind and go all in or stay all out. The same thing with this Akali trying to escape. You're surrounded by 3 people and you have no hit points left. Having this ability to use spells on turrets as well and get them down faster. It's almost like having an extra hull breaker like that. And as we enter the mid to late game, clearly past 23 minutes in, it's starting to look like Viego is the only person on Team Blue willing to help anybody out with anything. This difference between even the lower tier ranked and the casuals, just keeping track of anybody and everything. You can't overstep, I overstep here, trying to contribute, trying to get that bottom lane turret down, revenge myself up top and way too close to our inner turret. This Akali with unusual escape techniques, and quite frankly with Kanik on, Thornmail on, and Giant's Belt on, just melting like a candle. Melting like a candle, and it's like I'm playing Kha'Zix. I have 5 hit points here. And we have 2 frontliners, Blitzcrank and myself, and this is just a problem. You just notice that Silas needs something that is a bit more beefy than him. Teemo is a systematic failure at this level. In the casuals, you can play around and joke around with Teemo as a top. On this level, these people are unintentionally trolling. They are. It's a disaster, obviously. Set running around with 1,000,000 HP, and we have nothing in exchange. And this grossly diminishes the striking power of Silas and how far he can go. And this Smolder on a minor level, a dysfunctional player from a character standpoint and from a moral standpoint and from a team player standpoint. But nothing compared to the toxicity on Team Blue. So you would think that we would be able to endure. And when you boil it all down, we were fighting a team of trolls. Because you have Akali creating as much toxicity as possible. You have Draven with no map awareness, and you have Morgana, who is missing from every defensive play and every team fight that had any relevance. When I'm incapable of diving in with my ultimate because I became too squishy, it's time for me to adjust build patterns. I'm not using my clone properly here, and I'm taking all the damage myself. My play is lackluster, and this combination between quirky, bizarre troll teams and much higher difficulty in ranked mode gets me down. That's a personal problem that I have to work on. This Silas player is the victim in all of this, and the best player on our team, and he's being dragged down here. He's not being given the proper support to shine, but he's making all of his skill shots, and he's playing really hard. This Smolder is doing surprisingly poorly and mouthing off more than anybody else on Team Red, despite having a very reliable support and being built with the proper items. Blitzcrank is letting his abilities go here, which is much better, and a very high character guy from what we've seen in this game. Really better than what we deserve. Just a very niche champion. I don't know whether we're quite there yet at lower ranked, whether we're quite in Blitzcrank territory yet. Because Blitzcrank is very specific and very situational. And it's really all the way up there at the pro level. The more that you get bogged down with lower tier play and amateur level play, the more that Blitzcrank loses a lot of his appeal, because what you mostly have to do on that level of play is just outlast the other guy, and you really don't need Blitzcrank for that. And I'm going to strike up a conversation about this Steamo individual and this entire top laning at this level of play. Because I do believe that this person was serious, but I would like some clarification and some discussion points on this. Substituting a set or an Aatrox for Teemo. Because you're putting teams in positions where they really are working for nothing and to no end, without any achievable victory in sight. Taking a look at the scoreboard here. If you believe in the KDA as a stat, you would have to look at Smolder here. And yet when we look at these items, these are good items. You're going with a world's humanoid build here for Smolder. These are good items. This works. The idea is to turn Smolder into Kog'Maw, and to emphasize his auto attack damage and its synergy with the first spell of Smolder. It is also a good idea to pick a shooter that deals both magic damage and physical damage, or attack damage and ability damage, whichever way you prefer. This person has also been very active in the minions here, which is an important stat when it comes to pushing your lane, and so we are left to believe that this must be the result of a mechanical skill issue. Shooter role is a fairly ungrateful role, and here is why. The star of the team will always be the mid, but on almost any level of play, the shooter role is more difficult to play. And so it is an ungrateful role because you take on more difficulty and more mechanical complexity, but you do not gain any fame for it or any star power for it. A typical mid like Sylas has more decision-making time than you do as a shooter, and yet he will always be the star. This little buckler here in the beginning does not fit with Akali, and Akali is as naked of a character as it gets. That is to say, you cannot really build her tanky, you cannot really build her for survivability. She is a crazy all-out ninja, and so everybody can tell what your skill level is when playing her. It's very revealing and it's very transparent as a character, and it's very clear that this person is not a good candidate based on this game as a sample size to be playing Akali, because there is no way to build around this. This is as pure of a skill check as you're ever going to get. It's unbelievable. I did much better this time than I usually do, and you have to keep in mind at this point here in the game, Viego was buying pure weaponry and I was buying Tornmail to set up my tankiness. And yet somehow I was able to farm up more gold than him. And that makes this defeat very unique, because we will go a long time before we ever see this again on the channel. It is clear that Viego is a hyper carry, but here the stat clearly shows that he failed at being a hyper carry because he clearly got out farmed by somebody who was building defensively. In me. So this is very strange. This comes down to, in the last moment, where the lines cross here at around 30 minutes, this man just getting an epiphany and just reviving his mechanical skills. And apparently just a person who really knows how to play and can reverse the entire situation.
my ability. Bring me a real challenge. Been waiting for this. Every mistake is a lesson. You got it. Wuju style. My journey's only beginning. My place is at the top.
An enemy has been slain.
Is that all they've got? I got this. Show me the path.
An ally has been slain.
Never settle for second. Adapt to all situations. Who questions my ability? mistake is a lesson. Bring me a real challenge. My journey's only beginning. You got it.
Killing spree.
Put me to the test.
An enemy has been slain.
Show me the path. Never settle for second. My place is at the top.
An ally has been slain.
Adapt to all situations.
Rampage. Just try to stop. An enemy has been slain.
Who questions my ability?
An enemy has been slain.
Bring me a real challenge. You got it. Show me the path. My place is at the top. Never settle for second. Every mistake is a lesson. Adapt to all situations.
An ally has been slain.
Who questions my ability?
An enemy has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed.
Bring me a real challenge. My journey's only beginning. You got it.
Double kill.
Show me the path. Never settle for second. My place is at the top.
An enemy has been slain. has been slain.
Adapt to all situations. Who questions my ability? Every mistake is a lesson. Bring me a real challenge.
An enemy has been slain.
You got it. Let's see what you're made of. My journey's only beginning.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Show me the path.
Shut down. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your turret has been destroyed.
Never settle for second. My place is at the top.
Has been destroyed.
Share and share alike. Adapt to all situations.
Your turret has been destroyed. Down.
Every mistake is a lesson. Bring me a real challenge.
Shut down. Rampage.
Who questions my ability?
Unstoppable.
My journey's only beginning.
Shut down. Your team has destroyed a turret.
You got it.
Executed. Double kill.
My place is at the top. Never settle for second.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Situation.
An enemy has been slain.
Bring me a real challenge. Every mistake is a lesson. Who questions my ability? My journey's only beginning. Show me the path.
Enemy double kill. You have been slain.
place is at the top.
You have slain an enemy.
You got it. Never settle for second. Bring me a real challenge.
An ally has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed.
Every mistake is a lesson.
Your turret has been destroyed. Slain an enemy. Your turret has been destroyed. Rampage.
Is that all they've got? Adapt to all situations. My journey's only beginning.
Shut down. An enemy has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed.
My
Your
place is at the
inhibitor
top.
has been destroyed. Enemy double kill. Double kill. Killing spree. Double kill. Shut down. Aced.
You got it. Never settle for second. Show me the path. Every mistake is a lesson. Adapt to all situations.
An enemy has been slain.
Mortality.
place is at the top. You got it. My journey with you begins.
Defeat.